Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Great to be with you on the show today from Ann Arbor. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee, and a terrific service department that protects you for the life of the vehicle. It's all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, and Hummel's Wharf online at sunburymotors.com. Play-by-play call today, great drama between Pitt and Virginia.
Cummings got a piece of it. Clark recovers. Attacks, handed off for Shedrick. Out of bounds. It's Pitt ball. 43 second-half points against Virginia's defense is unheard of, especially when you score 23. Pitt took down North Carolina on Saturday. They followed up, taking down number 11 Virginia. Pitt basketball is back.
A great win for them. Great win. Especially the way Virginia plays defense with that pack line defense. I mean, they try to reduce possessions. They try to get you into long possessions. And to be honest with you, they dictate the tempo of every game. And they really, to their credit, give Pitt credit. I mean, they put up some numbers, and they got Virginia out of whack. And that was, again, to their credit, very impressive. All right. So, the varsity blues mastermind, Rick Singer, got 3.5 years in prison. Really? How about that? And then on the Michigan State front, Elijah Collins, the Michigan State running back, transfer portal. Manny Diaz made a great point about the transfer portal I want to get into. And when it comes time to get a veteran transfer, so and the odd thing is it's I can't talk about the names of the guys that have already said they're going to Penn State because I've got to make sure they sign first before I'm allowed to talk about them because it's an NCAA violation. So, again, my apologies to the audience. I'm just trying to follow the rules. And then, of course, when it comes to, I mentioned in the first half hour, again, my apologies to the audience. I have a really good handle, I think, except for one player about what everybody's doing about staying or coming back. Again, I'm not going to violate what anybody has told me. I'm talking about players or whatever because they should be allowed to do that themselves on their own timetable and not have me do it. So I apologize to the audience for that. All right. But Manny Diaz made a terrific point about the transfer portal. And he said that when it comes time to get a veteran in the transfer portal, it's really important before you take the player to talk to your current players on that side of the ball and specifically at that position to explain the rationale behind it and why. That way they've got a good handle as to why you're doing it. That they know you're going to be doing it. and where do they fit in all this in the area of competition? And I thought that was a great point for him to make about the importance of making sure the current players are well aware of who you're getting, why you're getting them, how they fit, and then make sure that they know how they fit with the fit. And that's something that, you kind of think like, okay, this guy's going to help, this guy's going to do this guy's going to do that. And there's a reality to it, and the reality is, hey, they're coming into it, and guess what? It may, if you do it in a haphazard way, you may tick off 3 people and just, that's it. And you end up with a team that is, with a locker room that is not fully in sync with what's going on, and that's not good. And I really hadn't thought too much about that before he discussed it. And he's right. He's taking it from he's taking it from 3 points of view. He's taking it from the view of a head coach, a view of a coordinator, and a view of a position coach. And one of the keys to this particular team is how incredibly tight they are. So that when they ran into trouble here across the street at Michigan, and Manny had a lot of heart-to-heart talks with those defensive players. I mean, blunt heart talks with those players. And part of it was an absolute alignment problem. And in that alignment problem, some guys were trying to do more than they should have to make up for somebody else. And in doing that, they then got themselves out of position. So we had a heart-to-heart like that. We got to do this, and this is how it's going to be going forward. And he said those were tough conversations. But you can have tough conversations with players who have maturity, who want to be coached, and when they're tight like that, it makes a big difference. And that's how your locker room is so important in that regard. And then when they had that tough one with Ohio State where they had the lead with 8.5 minutes to go, right, and they didn't get it, and didn't get the game, P.J. Mustipher got up in front of that team, and he laid it all out on the line for them about what was expected down the stretch. And, of course, as P.J. Mustipher, he had the cachet to get up there and everybody listened. And when I brought it up to P.J. on the postgame show, I think it was after Maryland. It was after the Maryland game. And I asked him, I said, you made that speech after the Ohio State game. As a leader, what does it mean to you that your teammates not only listened to you but embraced it and have been putting together the kind of performances they have? And he got choked up and he almost couldn't answer the question. But that's what you need. That's when you know you have a tight, cohesive locker room. When you can have those heart-to-hearts. And the words aren't always pretty and nice. And people embrace it and get it. And that means so much. And that's how really good teams operate. Really good teams operate that way. And I think that is that's so important. And and that's how, and that's why I talked up Manny's original point about the transfer portal. You want to keep your locker room tight, cohesive, and you want the addition into a locker room to be something that enhances the locker room as well as being a terrific player. Arnold Ebiketie enhanced the locker room. Mitchell Tinsley enhanced the locker room. Hunter Norzad has enhanced the locker room. Johnny Dixon has enhanced the locker room. Chop Robinson has enhanced the locker room. In other words, not only terrific players, but great fits into the culture, and that does make a big difference. And there's another part where I'm talking about those heart-to-hearts. One of the great myths of sports is that great players are so talented they don't need a lot of coaching. I'm sure you've heard that before, Matt.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's 180 of that. It's 180. And the reason it's 180 is that almost every great player I've been around, and this is on the college level, the pros are the pros. Every great player I've ever been around, and I have been privileged, beyond words, to be around some great players. Some that are still excelling in the NFL now, others over the years have excelled. They all had the same trait. They wanted to be coached. They wanted to be coached. And that's, so when I talk about Manny having the hard conversations, he was having hard conversations with guys who want to be coached. Tell me what I'm doing. What can I do to be better? What can I do to make the team better? And in this world of social media we're in, you have two schools of thought. You can tear down somebody and possibly get them thinking so much that it hurts their confidence. You can do that. And sometimes social media has the capability of doing that. Now you start thinking it hurts your confidence, it's a problem. There's the other side where you're praised and praised and praised and praised. And praise can be poison. All right? Now, everybody wants to be praised. Of course they do. But you have to be able to channel it and handle it in such a way where, like, thank you, and then the next thing you do is go back to work and say, you know what, I got to be better. I got to figure out how to be better. How can I help my team? It's nice that all these people are saying nice things, but what can I do to be better? Instead of like, hey, I'm doing pretty well. I got it made. All right, And I tell my class that all the time, even in a broadcasting point of view. I tell them all the time. I said, I'm not a social media person. I know you're shocked to hear that, Matt.
Oh, my almighty!
James Franklin always kids me about that. He says, Steve, you're not really a social media guy, are you? He said, I never sent you a Twitter guy. I go, no. Right, and he's just kidding me. All right, but I tell my broadcasting class the same thing all the time, that they, as younger people, are going to be required by broadcast or media entities to be on social media. Now, fortunately, and I know Matt hates when I say this, I don't have to be. You hate that, don't you?
No, I actually get that point.
All right. I know the company wants me to be, but I'm not. Okay. And I said, there are a couple things I don't want you to do. Number one, I said, try not to pay attention to criticism. I said, if there's any criticism, let it be from a mentor. Or if you have a question, ask a mentor, somebody that's been through it around the block and can give you suggestions to be better. Okay, that know the business, know how things work, know what the traffic's like, whatever it may be. Okay. I said, and on social media, I says, because then you start thinking, and then you're not as smooth, you're not as carefree. It actually, I think, leads to more mistakes because you're thinking so much. I said, and don't get into Twitter fights. Don't do that. Because in the end, no matter what, who's the biggest loser in the Twitter fight? Always. The name entity. Right? I don't care whether you're an actor, you're a broadcaster, or whatever. Like, if you're the name in there, right, people are ripping left and right, left and right, left and right, you're going to end up looking at like the loser and all that. I said, you don't need that. I said, just be responsible with how you use it. I said, don't get into fights. Okay, sit back and say, let me read this, or have somebody else read it before you hit send. I said, so you avoid trouble if you can. I said, now the other part is the praise part. I said, always thank everybody if they say something nice to you because, again, we in this industry are nothing without you. Zero. Okay? Okay? Know you, why do you need us? I mean, we need you more than you need us, which is important to know. I said, always say thanks, and always be grateful that somebody praises your work. I said, and then once they leave, go back to work. All right? Don't ever in your life sit back and say, I got it made. Hey, they love me. Hey, they love me. I got it made. Can't do that. Because that's when you start slipping. You're not as detailed. Right? You're not working as hard. I'm doing great. They love me. No. It's like, thank you so much. Wow, I really appreciate that. It's really nice of you to say. Then they walk away. You're like, okay, let's go back to work. Let's see if I can make the next thing I do better. And that's how athletes have to deal with it. So I'm talking about what I tell my class. Athletes have to deal with it the same way because they're going to get, you're the greatest this, you're the greatest that, wow. But guess what? They got to be better the next game. They got to be better the next game after that. So they can't let that go to their head because if that happens, then it does become poison. Conversely, the criticism part, okay? You got coaches, you got film. You don't need to be sitting there going, oh, man, they don't like my hands. They don't like my blocking. They don't like my, you know what I mean? Okay. You see my point, Matt?
100%.
I mean, and it doesn't mean that you can't have interaction with fans, but, there's some people who try to bait you, I think. So you can't act like you have it made. You can't act like the world is falling apart. You got enough people that know what they're talking about to set you in the right direction. That's why, as I go back to the original point, the greatest players are the ones that want to be coached. They want to know what can be better. All right. We will take a break. All those phone calls we're getting about the Rose Bowl untouched. I'm just kidding. I hope everybody had a good time. If you're a Penn State fan, really enjoy this week. Really enjoy it. There's no game this weekend. They're coming off just a performance beyond words. Sure, there's transfer portal stuff. Sure, there's still recruiting, things like that. But as a Penn State fan, sit back and relax. Your team on one of the greatest stages on the planet that looks like a Hollywood set put on a Hollywood-style performance. It was great. Here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
The offensive player of the game for this Rose Bowl for a spectacular performance is the quarterback Sean Clifford. Sean, congratulations. You hold virtually every record that a quarterback could hold at Penn State. But what does this moment finishing here in Pasadena with the Rose Bowl championship mean to you?
It's just an absolute blessing. I'm just looking at all my teammates right now. Everybody's so happy. I mean, I just can't be more excited for them, more excited for this fan base. We're really doing something now. Let's go.
Yeah. You know what? I talked to him for about maybe 20 minutes after. I'm talking back at the hotel on Monday night. And he says it's a lot of ways it hasn't really, set in, and it really was great. I'm so happy for him because, look, we know about all the questions about him coming back in his 6th year and the whole thing. And, the two of us had this running joke, over time that, and part of the running joke over time was that the first Rose Bowl was 100 years ago in the stadium. I didn't broadcast it, and he didn't play in it. So we always had a little fun with it, But he said, I really can't put it into words. He said it's just how much it meant to him. And to finish it off with that kind of style was really cool. And I couldn't be happier for him.
No one deserves it more than him. No one.
I'm just really happy for him. The whole group, the entire group was like that the entire season. Now you start setting your sights about, look, every team is a different entity unto itself. They all are, because you have losses and additions. They take on last year's work ethic, they're going to be really good.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is The Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right, Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai. Best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the all-important Sunbury Motors guarantee. And a fabulous service department that backs it all up. It is at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. So I've been going through the day today. And certain things you're doing, okay, well, this is the last day I need to do that. So I'll put that in the suitcase. That's the last time in the trip I need that, so put that back in the suitcase. Because I've been on the road for days now. So I'm looking over at the suitcase like, okay, I got to just put that back in. We're good now. Oh, my goodness. Then we got the Palestra game coming up on Sunday. And that will be quite an event as well. That's already sold out, as a matter of fact. But tonight first, I've got Michigan. That's Hunter Dickinson. Bufkin has done he's a good, quick player. Terrence Williams, who was Miles Dredd's teammate at Gonzaga College High School down in, and Olu Fashanu down in D.C. Is on the other side. Good, solid player. Dickinson's a good big man inside who had actually struggled against North Carolina and did not play well against Central Michigan, but then turned in a terrific game against Maryland on Sunday. And I give him a lot of, he played really well. And then they lost Llewellyn for the season, their point guard, the transfer from Princeton. And Doug McDaniel, whom they've been weaning up to that point, getting him in, and he's had to take over as the full-time point guard. He is lightning quick. Maybe not the greatest shooter on the planet, at least to this point he has not been. Doesn't mean he can't go out and shoot tonight. But is lightning quick. You've got to keep him in front of you somehow, some way. And Joey Baker off the bench, the transfer from Duke. Good player, solid player. And does a lot of things really well. But that's what he is. He's a good player, a solid player. For example, Duke might not have been the best fit for him along the way. It doesn't mean he's not a good player. It's just in terms of the fit, maybe, And he's coming off the bench here, and he can hit some shots. He's a good shooter that can hit some shots, and he did against Central Michigan, against Maryland the other day. But then again, you look at the stats, they all did. That was a rarity for Maryland. Maryland's played really well this year, and Michigan just came out. They jumped out to a 25-4 lead in that game. Penn State's won 5 in a row. Jalen Pickett, who had been okay against Quinnipiac and okay against Delaware State, was really good Sunday against Iowa. And Andrew Funk, after going through a mini slump, Andrew Funk, the last 2 games, has shot lights out. He's been great. And Seth Lundy's the guy that really bailed him out in the game on Sunday by how he played and some of the plays he made down the stretch. He had a steal, hit a couple of free throws down the stretch. I know some people are saying, oh, no, they're missing free throws. Penn State was 5 of 7 at the free throw line, okay, in the final 4 minutes of the game. So that part was actually fine. That was fine. So that's tonight. And then we got the college football playoff Monday night, Georgia TCU. In fact, Georgia is in the just took over the hotel that we left yesterday. So that's where they've got that hotel now. And that's over at SoFi. So I finally got my first real look at SoFi. Oh my goodness. It's amazing what a lot of money buys you. Woo. That's some stadium, Matt.
Certainly looks like it.
I mean, it's a totally different design. It's open around the sides, but covered. So it's a little different. I mean, there actually is legitimately a breeze in there. It's like, okay. The Rams played the Chargers there Sunday. I'm not even sure anybody in Southern California knew it. Oh, mercy. It's a little different. A little different. But as I think I told you going in, I mean, for us it was a business trip, and that's the way it ended up. You know, you're glad you do it that way. I'm fortunate to have been out there, you know, before, to been to other Rose Bowls and so forth, so that when you get to this, you know, you've already done all the other things. Like, I had people saying to me, you got to go to the parade. And, you know, as you know, I said no, because I'd already been to the parade. And that makes for a really long day when you do that, because you got to be there by 6 a.m. Well, I can tell you at 6 a.m., Stevie Boy was asleep. I was out cold. Yeah, I think at 8 o'clock I was the same way too. But the performance by the team was just, I wasn't surprised by it. And for Utah, nobody for Utah surprised me at all. Rising didn't. I think, Rising was only 8 of 21 passing in the game for 95 yards. And the one big play he hit was one that was not a great throw, and he underthrew the guy, and he came back and got it, is Valey. But his running and his pocket presence was a difference. His throwing was not. And I think in watching the replay of it, I think I can see where the knee went. It wasn't when he got hit. If you watch carefully on the replay, and I think they're showing like, you know, Big 10 and 60 and things like that, watch when he cuts left as he goes into the air right before the hit. You can see the left leg give out. And I think that's where it occurred. It was on the cut. And then, you know, when he was Penn State was already winning the game. And I think they were going to win the game anyway, because they were playing that well. But the one guy that surprised me in the game with his lack of performance was number 11, Hubert. I mean, Matt, you watch him on tape. This guy's a good player, really good. But let's go back to the USC game when they played in the championship game. And for some reason, this wasn't brought up that often by people. But how many blown coverages were there in the secondary?
A lot.
By Utah, in that Utah-USC game. I mean, a lot.
Yep.
A lot of blown coverages, long plays. Well, Penn State had it, and again, they didn't have. And remember, one of the DBs was Clark Phillips. And what was the point I made, Matt, for a couple of weeks about the opt-outs? I said, we know Joey Porter Jr. opted out. That Clark Phillips and Dalton had opted out. All right. But I said the difference between Phillips and Porter is this. And Porter will probably be picked ahead of Phillips. But the difference is Penn State has Johnny Dixon and Utah doesn't.
Correct. And plenty of other depth in the secondary that really took it up a notch, too.
Oh, sure. I mean, Kalen King is better than anybody they have at corner. So, I mean, to me, Kalen King was a given. So you knew that, okay, well, if they're going to go over to the backup guy, the backup guy's better than your guy. Because I'm watching the corners. I'm watching Broughton, and I'm watching 16 on tape. And I'm like, really? Like Phillips, I watched him on tape. I went, geez, that guy's good. Look at how he covers. He's not handsy. He gets picks. He knocks down ball. Now you can see why they don't go near him. But the two guys, on each side, I kept looking at them going, they got a problem there. And Hubert covered up for a lot of that. In this game, he didn't. He struggled. He just had one of those off days where he's supposed to take the deep part, didn't do it on the one long play. He comes up to the line of scrimmage and then shifts to the one side after looking at the sideline on the Singleton run, right, as a cover zero look on a third down play, and all of a sudden vacated the area and Singleton goes through. You're like, wow, he really, for a guy that I really liked on tape, I'm like, I really liked him in person. I was kind of surprised he played the game he did. It's just, everybody's entitled to an off day, and he had an off day. He had an off day at a bad time for them, because normally I can be honestly with everybody, I think 11 for Utah. Hubert is a really good player, but he was not on Monday.
Which leads me to my two conclusions that I had about this game and why I picked Penn State when we did our picks. Utah, especially the way they played against USC, has not seen a defense with this much depth like Penn State. They had never faced a running game like Penn State. And the game played exactly the way I thought it would. It played out that way, that Penn State's run game was going to open things up in the passing game, and Penn State's defense was going to force Utah into some mistakes. And it did. And it took them back behind the chains several times on the drives where they actually had something going and maybe could have taken some momentum, but then they had some sort of mistake or penalty that set them back, or a turnover. That was the difference.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, Utah's really, really good. They are. You don't win back-to-back Pac-12 championships if you don't have some talent. Number two, they are extremely well coached. I think Kyle Whittingham is a really terrific coach. He is rock solid as rock solid gets. So I give them a lot of credit there. And the reason I'm saying that is that makes Penn State's win even more impressive. It makes it even more impressive. They beat a really good team. And it just turned out that Penn State does have, James Franklin and his staff had a great plan, and Penn State had the talent to pull it off. And I think that's an important element of it. Penn State was the better team, and that beat a really good team. I always love when games are played and afterward, after a few beverages, somebody will say, yeah, I knew we'd win. They stink. Well, I'd look at them and I'll say, so that means the win isn't really that impressive, right? If they stink, how good are they? How good's your team? Right? Well, guess what? It's really great because when you know the other team is really good and really well coached and you win like that, that's impressive. That really impressed. It was just, it was phenomenal, and the happiness of the players afterward. And in the locker room afterward, I did tell Johnny Dixon that comment, that Jack and I had said that about him on the air. And, obviously he liked it. The emotion of talking to Sean Clifford, the emotion of talking to Jake Pinniger and Chris Stahl, of talking to P.J. Mustafer, Devon Ellies. You start talking to these guys. Some of the guys that are walk-ons. Because this is a team win. This is a team win. Every single player on that developmental squad that has to have the card and run Utah's plays. Guess what? It's their job to make the guys that are playing in the game better. And that's why I was thrilled that so many of them at the end could get in the game and could say they played in the Rose Bowl. All Robbie Dwyer, Cody Romano. I mean, you keep going through the entire list of guys. Sebastian Constantini, people like that could get in the game. Tank Smith could get in the game. I was thrilled for them because they do a lot of hard work every single day in practice. They just don't get the reps in the game. And now they had a chance to get in the game. And I thought that was really cool, too, because everybody had done their job so well, including them preparing the starters, that Penn State had a kind of margin that allowed them to play. And it's fun for me to sit here on a Wednesday and talk about all this, not dissecting a problem here and dissecting a problem there. They put together a terrific performance, and Sean Clifford was the maestro. Matt's going to take us home the rest of the way. One of us has to make the bus.
Oh, my almighty!
Yeah, you may want to do
I
that.
Make the bus. Yeah, I think so too. I don't think it'd be worth it to fly all this way all over the place and then miss the bus and have to take another cab.
I would have to agree.
Hey, everybody, it's great to be back with you. I hope you enjoyed the show. We have Mark Wogenrich tomorrow here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
When car repairs get difficult,
Well, I just don't know.
Me neither.
we get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Open 7 till 4, Monday through Friday. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.
Wrapping it up on another edition of the Steve Jones Show. First live edition for 2023. Matt Catrillo here with you. Steve on his way now to the arena for Penn State and Michigan, which will be joined in progress tonight here on WKOK after Shikellamy and Central Mountain boys basketball. So we'll see if Penn State can continue with their good start in Big Ten play so far. Big one against Michigan tonight on the road. Then they head to the Palestra on Sunday night to take on Purdue. And that'll be the biggest test of the year. So I'm curious how they come out tonight. That was a good shooting performance, good bounce back from kind of a lackluster couple of games. But honestly, it's a tough spot for Penn State to be in with having those types of opponents with that amount of layoff in between each game. I almost expected them to have those kind of clunker performances, but then pull out in the end after they get comfortable in the game. I wasn't really that surprised with how they came out the other night. Andrew Funk back to where he was, and Jalen Pickett, Cam Winter, and the like. So I expect the same thing from this Penn State team tonight against obviously a tough Michigan team. And I'll be curious to see how they handle Hunter Dickinson tonight, who's starting to play a little bit better basketball. That's a big game for him tonight, too. So that'll be joined in progress after Shikellamy boys basketball against Central Mountain tonight with Kevin and the Chief, Dave Ritchie. Tomorrow, as Steve said, we got Mark Wogenrich from SI.com at 4:06. He's making his way back from Pasadena, so he'll join us tomorrow for his take on the game. We're very curious to hear from him on his perspective on what was just a tremendous day for Penn State football. And now the spotlight is on them for next year. They got college football's attention with that performance. They really did. And now the question will be, can they take the next step? Which is, They're very capable of. I think they, if you ask me right now, I think you will see them in the CFP next year. But that's a big expectations to come in right away for Drew Aller. He's capable, but now he's just got to prove it and do it. And, of course, you have all the other new pieces that will be coming in place, I'm sure, over the course of the next several months with the transfer portal and recruiting wrapping up and getting finalized. But no doubt that Penn State showed they'll be a team to reckon with next year because of the depth that was shown, especially on the defensive side of the ball, in the game Monday in the Rose Bowl. I mean, you talk about the secondary alone. I mean, the whole defense in general showed a great amount of depth with some guys that they didn't have in there. And offense, of course, you have a lot of guys coming back, too. Of course, you have your 2 running backs coming back. You'll have 2 of the 3 tight ends coming back. Wide receiver will be something to keep an eye on. But there's a lot to like and to be happy about and to be excited about with Penn State football headed into the offseason. Steve was right. That was just a really fun game. And even when it was even, 14-14, second quarter and at halftime, you just always thought Penn State was in control. And had it stayed that way, Steve's right. I think Penn State would have won the game. But obviously, they found a way to make a lot of splash plays in the second half. Cam Rising gets hurt, and Penn State pulls away. So it's just a tremendous week and end of the season for Penn State football. Today's show brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai. Great selection of new and pre-owned inventory. You got that terrific sales staff that is there for you, not just there for the sales. Service department there for you with the diagnostics, the inspections, all the routine maintenance. Looking for more of those awesome technicians? Make sure you contact Sunbury Motors to apply today if you're interested in joining that great team over there at SMC. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Mark Wogan, RichSI.com, joins us tomorrow, and we'll talk to you then on this victory week for the Rose Bowl of Penn State football here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.